Hari Om. Let's start with the prayer. Om Samasta Jana Kalyani Niratam Karunamayam Namami Chinmayam Devam Sadgurum Brahma Vidvaram Vasudeva Sutam Devam Kamsa Chanura Mardanam Devaki Paramanandam Krishnam Bande Jagadgurum Tvameva Mata Cha Pita Tvameva Tvameva Bandhuscha Sakha Tvameva Tvameva Vidya Dravidam Tvameva Tvameva Sarvam Amadeva Deva Tvameva Sarvam Gurudeva Deva. Hari Om. So we are looking at the Bhagavan Ramanuja's objection against Advaita philosophy, and we covered many aspects of it, and fundamental aspect is related to the avidya, and related to that is jnanam aspect that we discussed. Is according to him that you are differentiating the jnanam because Brahman cannot be known. He says you do not know Brahman, and therefore you want to know Brahman, but Brahman cannot be known. Because if Brahman can be known, then Brahman becomes the object of knowledge. And any object, according to Advaita, is an inert. And you make Brahman into inert. But when you say Brahman is consciousness, therefore either you have to say Brahman is inert or Brahman cannot be known, because Brahman is pure consciousness. So your philosophy doesn't stand because you need to know Brahman. That's also one aspect of criticism of jnana aspect. And therefore you are differentiating, and in terms of jnanam wise, because one jnanam is opposite to ignorance, another jnanam is not opposite to ignorance. Because when you say Brahman is, the ajnanam is within the Brahman, at the same time is not opposite to ajnanam, so that means that one side is pure jnanam swarupam, at the other side it cannot be. So how can you have two ways and defining still Brahman? All these are the discussions are using sometimes by Vedanta Desika very subtle arguments in terms of Navya Nyaya, hair-splitting arguments in terms of Vikalpas and so on and so forth. But the essence is essentially then that if you know, you cannot, Brahman cannot be an object of knowledge. But we say yes, it can be. What you say is we are not trying to know Brahman as an object, and that's true because Brahman cannot be known. He is aprameyam. But what we are trying to know is remove the ignorance of that is blocking the Brahman or apparently blocking the Brahman. And went through that it is like clouds cannot be seen, sun cannot be seen because of the clouds. Why? Clouds are blocking the sun. So what do I have to do? I have to remove the clouds, and when I remove the clouds, the Brahman shining, the sun shining will be immediately revealed. I don't have to do anything to see Brahman after remove the clouds. Clouds is only obstructing, and therefore that should be the jnanam, and that's what needs to be understood. So in the case of jnanam, there are two aspects of involved, that is the objective knowledge and the nature of the Brahman knowledge or subject knowledge of the Brahman subject. So in the objective knowledge, it is Vritti Jnanam and the Phalam is there, Vritti Phalam is there. That means if I don't know chemistry, that can be removed by chemistry knowledge, and that itself is the knowledge of Vritti Jnanam. The direct result is there called Phalam. Whereas the Brahman knowledge is not, Brahman is not an object of knowledge. The chemistry is an object of my knowledge, which is different from physics knowledge. And therefore there are differences at this level of objective knowledge, because each objective knowledge is different. So knowledge is different at the point of the objective knowledge. But the point of the subject, it's not an object for me to know. So subject cannot be known as an object. But what I need to know is in and through every objective knowledge, there is a subject involved. And the same way in and through every knowledge also, Brahman knowledge is also involved. What I need to know is refocus from the point of objective to the very consciousness because of which I am conscious of. That for that only I need a subtle viveka or discriminative intellect by negating what I am not, as the scripture says, neti neti. That's from the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad. I am not this, I am not this, I am not this, but at the same time this is Adhara is supported by the consciousness, existence, Brahman, because there cannot be anything other than the Brahman. So my understanding is, when I am negating not this, I am only negating superficial name and a form, and looking at it without the name and a form, very substantive, and that's nothing but Brahman. Because in the perception, if you go through an analysis of how perception takes place, we are only grasping the attributes of the object, and the existence of the object is still remain there only, and its image as though formed as a thought in my mind. So existence of the object as though transferred as existence as a thought in the mind, and contents of the thought are nothing but reflected attributes of the object out there. Therefore, when I see the thought, I am paying attention to the thought, and how am I saying? Through the light of consciousness which illumines the thought, just as outside light is illumining the object and getting reflection to me, same way the reflected consciousness from the Chidabhasa falls on the thought and then getting reflected back to the mind, and therefore there is a subject thought and an object thought arising whenever I know this is an object, this is a part, and also simultaneously I know this is a part. So aham vritti and idam vritti both are rising in the mind. But when I try to inquire who is that Adam, or what is that consciousness because of which I am knowledge of idam and aham, that consciousness is in and through. So what I am doing is, in every perception I am negating not this as a superficial entities of names and forms, and looking at the very content as a pure existent and consciousness, existence of the object, consciousness of the subject joining together for me to be conscious of existence of the thought, and therefore existence of the object. Therefore, I have to use a very subtle discriminative intellect, viveka, to discover, that means to claim that I am that Brahman or I am that consciousness. It is not an objective knowledge. In fact, this is a problem for Advaitins also. When they try to say, I do not know Brahman, that means I am trying to objectify Brahman. It's only not understanding what is the nature of Brahman, or Aham Brahmasmi, has to be understood. And that understanding has to be, as J. Krishnamurti puts it, it's an understanding as a fact, not understanding as a thought. Same thing Vedanta says, it is aparoksha anubhuti, it is or aparoksha jnanam. It is not a pratyaksha jnanam, it is not a paroksha jnanam, it is aparoksha jnanam. It is I am that. So jnanam itself we are trying to differentiate in terms of the understanding of the subject itself, or Brahman, and understanding of all objective knowledge. There is a phalam is involved in the objective knowledge. In the case of the subject, it's only without a phalam. And the example that Sureshwara gave, we discussed, is in the dark room when I saw a pot using a torchlight, and I saw a pot which is upside down. When I remove it, I saw candle burning there. Now I don't need to put a torchlight to see the candle, because candle is also self-luminous. In the same way, the consciousness is self-luminous. Once the clouds are removed, sun automatically is shining, and the shining sun is revealed itself. Same way, consciousness that I am gets revealed. The knowledge automatically takes place when I remove the ajnana, or when I gain the knowledge through Vedanta, Sravana, Manana, Nididhyasana. All that is analyzed. Itself is you are differentiating. At the same time, we mentioned that Ramanuja also differentiates the jnanam. He calls it two jnanam. One is dharma bhuta jnanam, and is dharmic jnanam. So while criticizing that jnanam cannot be differentiated, himself is differentiating it. So therefore, that kind of criticism, we cannot accept it. And the next aspect is involved in terms of how the explanation of Tattvamasi statement, and both use Samanadhikarana in order to explain that. But before that, looking at Sishta Advaita also, the essence of moksha involves essentially Saranagati, surrendering completely, but moksha for them also involves, or for them involves going from this the Leela Vibhuti to Divya Vibhuti. Therefore, the moksha I cannot gain with this body. So, it is to be gained after the death of the body, where depending upon whether I have surrendered or whether I have gained the knowledge that I am only dependent on the Lord, if I have proper knowledge and I have surrendered completely to the Lord, then I'll be blessed to go to all the way to Vaikunta, where I had to take a bath and leaving this gross body here, all this Bhautika Sariram, because it is an impure body. And when I go there, I had to go to Vaikunta, and Vaikunta is what? Vaikunta is a place, so therefore it is located, and in the location it is called, made up of pure Sattvam. So they differentiate Divya Vibhuti compared to, or Nitya Vibhuti, eternal abode, compared to Leela Vibhuti. That is this Bhautika world with the Leela Vibhuti is made up of Sattva, Rajas, Tamo gunas. That means Sattva mixed with the impurities of Rajas and Tamas. Whereas in the case of the Divya Vibhuti, it is Divyam, that means it is shining, that means luminous entity, but made up of pure Sattvam, Suddha Sattvam, and everything is in the pure of Suddha Sattvam, that is 3/4 compared to 1/4 is the Leela Vibhuti. That comes from the Purusha Sukta. Padosya Vishwa Bhutani Tripadasya Amrutam Divi. So Amrutam Divi, that which is changeless entity, which is absolute entity, that is of the nature of Nitya Vibhuti, and that's what moksha is. We also said, according to the Asishta Advaita, there is also Desha Kala Vastu Parichinnatvam even in the Vaikunta also. That means it is limited by space, it is limited by time, and it is limited by object, because one jiva is different from another jiva. Lakshmi is different from Garuda. There are hierarchy of jivas, highest jiva being Lakshmi, and below that is all other, starting from the Vishwaksena, Garuda, etc., etc. So therefore, there is a Taratama Vedam. The Tara means comparative, Tama means superlative. There are superlative and comparative differences, and whenever there is a difference, there is always a samsara. That's what Vedanta says. That's what we say. Therefore, that kind of moksha from the Advaitic point cannot be moksha, and because it should be non-differentiable, that is absolute, and there is no difference of any kind in the moksha. And if there is a problem, because Upanishad also says Udara Mantaram Kurute Atasasya Bhayam Bhavati. Any speck of difference will give you the fear. Therefore, the moksha is also different. From the point of Advaita, the moksha is apraptasya praptam. It is gaining something which will not be gained. That means I am already muktaha. I am already liberated, because I do not know that I am Brahman. I am taking not Brahman as a Brahman. So only what I had to do, moksha, is claim myself, my authenticity. Therefore, in the Upanishad says, Shrunvanta Visve Amrutasya Putraha. So the sage addresses, hey, listen you too, you all. You say, listen, Shrunvantu Visvi, Amrutas, he addresses everyone as Amrutasya Putraha. That means you are sons of immortality. Means that's your birthright. That means I had to claim that. And claiming is nothing but clear understanding that I am Brahmasmi. That means happiness comes from my own self. Logically, looking that, claiming myself is nothing but I am full by myself, and that's essentially, that means I am not longing for anything, and that's how Krishna defines as Sita Prajnaha. That means it is Prajahati Yadakaman Sarvan Parthamanogatan Atmani eva Atmanatushtaha. The one who is satisfied by himself. That means he doesn't need anything else for him to be happy. That means he has recognized he is full by himself. Therefore, Atmani eva Atmanatushtaha. Therefore, he is completely satisfied with himself, and he is reveling in himself. That self that he revels is nothing but state of pure happiness itself. All that is self-consistent, also according to the scriptures. And when they say criticize Advaita doesn't follow the scriptures properly. Obviously they are not talking correctly, because they are only looking from their point, and one has to be careful how they interpret it and they question, and we have to watch out what the questioning is. We can do that provided we have a clear fundamental understanding of Advaita. Now we go into the details of how exactly they define the description of some of the Mahavakyas by Advaita Vedanta, by Advaita Vedanta as well as by the Visishtadvaita. And they accept also that we also accept. From our point, we do not negate Visishtadvaita, because it's all part of Vyavaharika Satyam. Any difference that you think of, including going to different lokas and all that, is part of transactional reality only. In the part of 5 talking about Jiva, which one travels? It is nothing but the Buddhi, the Antakarana, that is the subtle body, moves from place to place, and wherever the subtle body is there is a reflection of consciousness, because consciousness is everywhere. Therefore subtle body with the reflecting consciousness is moving, and it leaves this body, gross body, since that gross body is no more conducive for exhausting the set of vasanas that are germinating at that time. So it has to find a location and a body conducive to exhaust next set of vasanas. So different lokas are being traveled. So which exactly travels here? This has to be carefully understood. It says pure consciousness cannot travel, because it's all infinite, and pure consciousness cannot leave anything. So even in the dead body there is a pure existent consciousness expressed as pure existence, because the body is. Isness means coming from the existence point, but it doesn't have the subtle body, so therefore no knowledge can take place, or life is not there. Life comes only when the subtle body is activated by the presence of consciousness. It gets activated because it has the capacity to reflect. Reflection is nothing but activation of the consciousness, and therefore it is the buddhi that travels, and the traveling is a direction involved, and the direction is set by the guru, which is essentially the vasanas provide the directions. So depending upon the next set of vasanas, you travel in that. So I go from here to America because my vasanas are traveling in that direction, so I set up that way. Other fellow wants to go some other place and his vasanas are driving in that. So vasanas provides you a path for direction to go, and it is the buddhi that goes, and that's what travels from one loka to other loka, and there depending upon the loka, conducive to the loka means a field, a body is taken. So body is meant for exhausting those particular vasanas that can be exhausted in that loka only. So who is traveling? It is the Antakarana. Does Chidabhasa travels? Chidabhasa is only reflection, and reflection occurs wherever it is. So when the moon is going around the sun, says where is this? Is a reflected sunlight occurring, is moving along with the moon? If you ask, moon is going around the earth, moving around the earth, and we are seeing the moon going around the earth. Why are we seeing? Because the sunlight is getting reflected by the moon. Is sunlight reflected sunlight is also traveling at the moon? Need not be, because sunlight is everywhere, and wherever the moon is, there is sunlight, and that sunlight is getting reflected. So we don't even say it's a Chidabhasa is traveling also. Chidabhasa is everywhere, wherever the consciousness is and wherever the instrument is. Instrument has to reflect, and instrument, since the consciousness is everywhere, wherever the instrument is, there the instrument gets reflection occurs. So therefore we don't differentiate in terms of the consciousness, and Chidabhasa also we don't say it's moving, it's only the subtle body that moves from one place to the other place and one loka to other loka. So when they say Jiva is traveling from one place to other place, we are only identifying with Antakarana. And this Antakarana occupies another body conducive to exhaust the Vasana. So we have to understand all this. So OC, original consciousness, is not affected. The RC itself doesn't affect it, other than reflecting, and the reflection depends upon the medium of reflection, depends on the purity, and depends upon where the reflection is. All that is involved in terms of who is traveling, is Jiva traveling, who has avidya, all these things should be clear in terms of understanding wise. With this we'll stop here, and then we go into the next analysis of the Samanadhikarana in the next talk. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Sishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Sri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om.